So James Harden this season has been on an absolute tear and has honestly been looking like probably the healthiest he's ever been these last 2 seasons. I mean, we saw this last season with the Nets and then coming to the Sixers. He wasn't playing all too well with the nagging hamstring injury from the previous season in 2021, where he went down with that injury versus the Bucks. And now looking at it this season, I mean, he's looking like he's been really healthy and been working in the offseason. So we'll talk about James Harden in this video and talking about how he's been able to adapt his game to play alongside of the stars, but also how he's been able to stay consistent on offense too. So yeah, we'll break it down here, talking about James Harden, talking about his high level of play, and why it's been leading to the Sixers' success of this season. So, over the season, Harden is averaging 22 points per game, around 6 rebounds, and around 10.8 assists on 45, 40, and 87 shooting splits. So, Harden, this season, he's been very underrated as he was snubbed from the All-Star game, averaging around like 21 and 10, I want to say, before. That was like, I think it was like last month. So, yeah, I mean, Harden being snubbed from the All-Star game, being, I would say, one of the more slept-on players. Whenever people talk about top guards in the league, they usually say guys like Luka Doncic, Steph Curry, John Morant. I mean, all those type of guys would be thrown to be top guards in the league. But, you know, a guy like a James Harden, he's been honestly one of the more slept-on players and a guy that people really don't talk about anymore because he's not doing his iso ball type of style anymore, and he's molded his game into more of a pass-first point guard kind of player. So, yeah, I mean, this season alone, he's been able to come back from a horrendous season with the Nets and a very subpar playoff run last season. Yeah, I mean, the season, or what's it called, the playoff series against the Heat, that wasn't really a good playoff outing for James Harden. And even with the Nets, I mean, he had some instances where he was pretty good, but outside of that, I mean, overall in the season, he wasn't really too great overall, like I said, with the nagging hamstring injury. So, yeah, coming back this season, he's been able to put in a lot of work in the offseason. I remember a couple months back, James Harden, I think he stated that he wasn't able to work on his game in the previous offseason due to him having that injury. So having that time off and having time to just practice and work on his game has definitely helped him a lot this season. So we'll see what happens. I think James Harden, he's going to have a pretty good, strong outing to the end of the season. I think he's going to be probably one of the more like I said, underrated guards in the league, but also a guy that might go up in the rankings for the MVP award. I think if he keeps up this high level of play, he could be a throw-in. I think on, I can't remember what website it was, but some website, someone had him like 6 or 7 on the MVP ladder. So Harden in these past few seasons has been able to mold his game into a more pass-first point guard style rather than his iso ball everyone knew him from. He's been able to just basically play alongside stars that are going to be taking over in the game. I mean, he's no longer basically a first option on the team. Obviously, if he goes to a team like Houston or a team that's rebuilding, he's going to be the number 1 option, and he can still put up big numbers. I just think that the days of him playing iso ball and him being in a more iso system is definitely going to be over for him. I mean, he's around 33 years old, so he's getting up there in age. So I think Harden, molding his game right now into a passing guard is definitely going to be better for his career in the future because, going with the iso ball style into the future definitely wouldn't work and definitely won't lead to rings. So I think Harden, molding his game around being a pass-first point guard, especially with guys like Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid on the team, it's definitely going to be a lot better for their offense to really just move around the ball, get guys involved in the game pretty early here, and just get guys started on their game overall. Because I think, with Harden on the Sixers right now, it's definitely a good thing for them. Because guys like Tyrese Maxey, guys like DeAnthony Melton, guys like Tobias Harris, guys like Joel Embiid, they all need to get started. And, James Harden can definitely be that initiator. So he's been leading the league in assists per game and has been a top guard in the league in terms of playmaking. In terms of shooting the ball, Harden is also averaging a career high in 3-point percentage as he's been getting a lot more open looks with guys like Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid on the floor, just creating some more gravity for James Harden to get some open looks. And he's also just knocking them down at a consistent rate. So I think that's good for him. Another thing I want to note is that he's been able to play with Joel Embiid, who is a top center in this league, and he's been able to help Harden on the offensive floor as well, as Harden's a guy that can run a lot of pick and rolls and pick and pops, and that's really the bread and butter for the Sixers offense, is that they run a lot of pick and pops with Joel Embiid and James Harden in the post, and with Joel Embiid being a good I would say, yeah, a good post shot maker and a good elbow maker. He's definitely a good guy for James Harden, and probably the best match right now in terms of Harden's being able to play with Harden's play style with what he's able to do. So I think Joel Embiid is a good complementary piece to James Harden. I think Harden's a good complementary piece to Joel Embiid. And I think both these guys, this duo, could definitely take over the league in the next few seasons, depending on what happens. So overall, Harden, he's one of the more slept on players in the league, as he's been a huge factor in the Sixers' wins this season. Last game, I think last Sixers game was the Bucks I watched. That game was electric with James Harden, showing off his full display of offensive abilities, being able to knock down deep threes, being able to pass the ball, being able to look for the open man. I think Harden, that game alone was definitely his best outing as a Sixer, and I think moving forward, if they get that type of Harden, especially in the playoffs, they're definitely going to be one of the more scary teams in the East. So looking at the East overall, there definitely are some teams to look out for, like Boston, Milwaukee, those type of teams are there. But I think Philadelphia, being the third seed right now, they're definitely going to be a team to look out for. I think, with teams like the Cavs, New York Knicks, the Brooklyn Nets, even the Miami Heat, I don't think they want to go to 7 games with the Philadelphia 76ers. I mean, getting a guy like a PJ Tucker too, pretty tough defender. Guys like Tobias Harris who can space the floor, and guys like Jaden McDaniels, who is coming off the bench for them and has some potential to become a good forward for this team. I think the Philadelphia 76ers, they put themselves into a pretty good position. Obviously, they do have some holes they need to fix, but overall, this team is definitely great. So you guys can what you guys think about the Sixers. That's the end. I'm out.